Welcome back to Y254 TV. This is still Y in the morning, and we're very glad that you're still tuned in and that you're still watching our Empowerment Cafe. We are always very glad to have you onto our first conversation that is inspiring stories. Our guest today is a storyteller in every sense of the word, whether it's through the lenses or it's through the rhythm of his words. He's a gifted poet whose verses speak to the soul, and a photographer with a keen eye for moments that often go unnoticed. So I don't want to preempt anything about him. I want to allow him to be able to introduce himself. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Naomba utuambie jina yako.
My name is Mulama Andete. I am a poet, photographer, writer, performer, yes, storyteller in all its forms.
Ah, amazing. So tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you? Who are you between the lenses and behind the lines? Which one? Where do we start?
I'm a storyteller. So I've always had this desire to tell stories, and I think for me that is who I am, because at any given time I'm either writing, I'm either performing, I'm either shooting, photography, videography. So I like to just call myself a storyteller in all its forms.
Amazing.
Yes.
So your passion in storytelling, where did it start from?
I think it's always been within. In primary school, nakumbuka, I think the first time I ever stood in front of people, nilikuwa class 5, and my primary school classmates still laugh about it, because I was performing this song by Jua Kali and Sanaipei, Kwaheri. And they still laugh about it up to today. But that was the first time I ever stood in front of people to do anything. So I think ilianzia hiyo time, and I started writing, rapping. In high school I was rapping, and then the first time I ever stood on a stage to do poetry was in 2016. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. So what's your poetry about?
My poetry is about many things. I derive my inspiration from the things around me, the society I live in. So since I'm telling stories, because I believe everything is a story and everyone has a story. I'm sure you have a story, and if I sat with you for a longer time than we have, I would be able to tell your story in a manner that someone will be like, okay, this is unique. Because people have stories, but they believe their stories are not unique.
Yeah.
But when I tell the story, you realize, okay, then my story is actually unique. It could be you paid school fees for yourself. It could be you aborted a baby. It could be you were going through GBV, and you're like, this is something that happens to a lot of people. But when you look at yourself and you tell your own story, it's actually unique in its own way. So yeah.
When did you first discover your love for both poetry and photography? Gani ilikuja kwanza, or like how did it play around, like ilikujaje?
Poetry ilikuja ya kwanza. When I finished, nikiwa high school nilikuwa na rap. Yeah, nilikuwa na rap. I was in Upper Hill High School. The great Upper Hill High School.
Sorry.
Yeah, nyumbani kwa wasanii. So we had sijui ka bado inaendeleanga, but Upper Hill kuna kitu ilikuwa inaitwa Freestyle Friday. So every Friday after classes at 4, we meet in one class, you know, rappers and beatmakers walikuwa wanagonga desk.
Wale watu wa madesk na wanini, mapen.
Yeah. Our class had a very good beatmaker. His name was Owen. Shout out to Owen. And then now the rappers tulikuwa na meet, and we just freestyle. We just freestyle for like 2 hours, and then go do your things, and then you're back to class. So there was that. So in high school we were rapping, tukipata chance tuna perform. We had Joseph. I was with K4 Kanali. Yeah. So we were doing that, and then now when we finished high school, I think that the rapper in me ikatulia kidogo, and then the poet in me now woke up.
Yeah.
So when I went to campus, I discovered there was a space for poets at All Saints Cathedral Church, which is along Kenyatta Avenue. They had a show they were doing it still goes on. It's every second Friday of the month. It's called Poetry Spot. So that was the first stage I ever stood on to do poetry, and from then on it was, let's go.
How was your first performance?
My first performance was I can't even remember the poem, but I know it was very corny. Yeah, it wasn't, you could tell it's my first time to perform. Yeah, but I loved the experience, and I was like, I could do this. I can do this for life, and I love telling a story, so it was a good experience.
Ni moment gani hiyo that pushed you to seriously pursue art?
Seriously pursue art. I don't know if it still goes on, but there are some international poets who had a collective. It was called P4CM, Passion for Christ Movement. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. So it's called Passion for Christ Movement, and it had an ensemble of poets, and these guys were they were traveling the world doing poetry, and I had never seen that being done before. I know musicians do tours, and even motivational speakers do tours, but I'd never seen poets traveling internationally doing poetry. And when I saw that, and the poets were dope. For me, one of them was called Ezekiel Azonu, and one of his poems is called Almost Saved. And when you listen to that poem, the wordplay, the writing, the delivery, everything is so amazing. And I was blown away. Nikajiambia, I need to do this. And I think for me that was the turning point. That was after now I had done my first performance now at Poetry Spot. I had done the first performance, but I wasn't all in. But after seeing that piece on YouTube, I knew I want to do this.
That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah,
How does poetry and photography help you express yourself differently or similarly?
I think it's for poetry, I'm able to express myself more. I'm more a poet than a photographer. But in general, I'm a storyteller. But for poetry, I'm able to express myself more because I can play around with words. There's double entendres. Photography, I'm able to show people what I'm seeing without telling them, and hoping that they too will be able to see that.
To see it.
Yes.
Oh, amazing. Never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
Yes.
Like, ushaisikia venye wapata reve.
Kwa hivyo, mi blow say away.
Do you find that one inspires the other?
I think they go in tandem. For me, at least, I think they go in tandem. I don't think there's a day I would want to put down the camera, and I don't think there's a day I would want to stop doing poetry. Like, these are things I would want to do for the rest of my life. You know, just telling stories. I want to be somewhere where we are telling stories. I want to be somewhere where stories are being told if I'm listening, if I'm the one telling the story. Yeah, whether it's through videography, film, photography, poetry, writing. Yeah, I also write fictional stories, so creative nonfiction, so I'm a storyteller in all its forms,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have you found yourself in a situation where a poem leads you to take a photo, or a photo leads you to write a poem?
A photo leads me to write a poem.
A photo?
Most of the time.
Okay.
Most
so
of the
pictures
time
create that fiction in your mind.
Yes.
Amazing. That's nice. That's nice. Tell me the story behind your IG. Why is your IG white? It's only white and black.
Yes. No one has actually asked me that question before. I love black and white. There's just something timeless about black and white. You know, if I see you now, I'm seeing all the colors of your clothes. I'm seeing all the yellow. I'm seeing like I'm present in this time, and I don't know about you were 2 years ago. I don't know about your 3 years ago. I don't know about your 4 years ago. But feel like black and white steals that time. It puts it in a photograph, and it's like if I look at that photo, I can tell this is way back, but these memories are still fresh. But when I look at your photo in colored, your colored photo from 2 years ago, personally, I don't feel like there's something nostalgic or timeless about it. Not that they are not good photos, they are very good photos, but I just feel there's a timelessness about black and white photos. And most of the time, even some of my poems that have been inspired by photos, those photos have been black and white.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so for me, I just love black and white.
You want it timeless?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm also an old soul. Nakuanga msewa hizo ma vintage cameras, record players. I wasn't born in that age. I didn't live around that age.
I know.
But I wish I had. But yeah.
Your mind is, which is also, when you find something you relate with, or when you find something that tickles your fancy and you stick to it, it gives you authenticity.
Yes.
It gives you your natural being. This is who I am. You can change it.
Yes.
And I tend to think it's a nice thing.
Yeah.
Because we're in a season where, or rather we're in a generation where we want to chase trends. Tunataka kuchase ile kitu imekam. Trends, we want to stay at par with. And sometimes you can't keep up.
For me, I just like to stay authentic and do what I love.
Yeah.
And do what makes me feel at home. Yeah.
So what messages or themes do you find yourself revolving around your work?
For the last, I think from around, okay, let me say June. From June last year, it's been mostly, okay, let me just say from last year up to now, it's been mostly political. I've been getting this political innuendos and Pan-Africanism. I love history so much, and I listen to a lot of history documentaries on YouTube, and I read a lot. So I have this feeling for Africa that we need to decolonize our mind. Yesterday I was reading about some three Americans who had been arrested in Congo in connection to a coup that had been planned, but it failed. And the Congo government had sentenced them to death. But Congo is also in negotiations with the US for a security, mineral for security deal. So these three Americans were deported back to the US. Initially, they had been given a death sentence, and then their death sentence was reverted back to a life sentence, and then now they were just deported to the US. But the people who are with them, now native Congos.
Oh yeah, I think in your story, the ones they were trying a coup.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the Congolese guys were actually murdered because the death sentence actually went through. But for the Americans,
walirudishwa kwao.
Yes. So for me, things like that really touch me, because I feel like Africans, we've accepted to, be the lowly person, and we can't survive without the US, and we can't survive without France, we can't survive without Britain, but we actually can. I saw I think it's the president for Botswana. She's a lady. She increased the visa fees for Americans coming to Botswana, because she was saying if America can increase their visa fees, then so can we.
We also increase ours. Yeah. Because sasa nimerealize ni 25k.
Yes.
Alafu ufike embassy ukatazwe.
Exactly.
After usha spend 25.
And then she opened up now for Africans going to Botswana, it's free. Because she was saying Africans should unite
Africans
together.
inafanga kwa bure kwenda any of these countries.
It doesn't make sense unaenda Nigeria unalipishwa sijui 35k kununua visa. It doesn't make sense. And na ukienda US bado unalipishwa.
Yeah.
So for Africans, she opened that up, and I think that is that is an eye opener for, should be an eye opener for a lot of countries, that Africa, we should come together. Yeah, we should come together. We have a show on on 3rd of May next month, and we are going to be exploring some of those issues. The show is called Too Many Words. I'm doing it with other dope poets. We are going to be exploring some of those issues. So war, politics, love, breakups. We are dealing with so many topics, and those are one of them. Yeah.
Amazing. I can tell the passion. This is the longest question we take to answer.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell the passion
Yes.
really comes from
Yeah.
from deep within. Tell me about a piece of story that has a deep personal story to it, rather a piece of poem you've done,
A piece of poem
or a photo you want to talk about.
There's a poem I usually do. It's a Kiswahili Sheng poem, and it talks about kuna time life inakuwaga imekusukuma, imekufikisha place, like you feel you're between a rock and a hard place, and unaanza kufikiria, okay, so how do I get myself out from this? Like, is this the last straw, ama there's more to this? What can I do? And unaanza hadi kupata dark thoughts. You start thinking, oh, mi naweza kuwa mwizi by the way. Mi naweza like nikiingia hapa kwa streets vizuri, naweza wapiga nyongolo nini.
Kipiduka umetembea vitu kadhaa.
Ukigeuka hivi kidogo, kirudi hivi simu haiko, unajua. So kuna time by the life ilikuwa imenifikisha hapo. So it's a really personal poem. Yeah, but God is good. Alinitoa your place. Alinitoa kwa your dark thought, dark pit I was in.
I think it's one of the points I'll ask you to do.
That's one of the points.
Has your art ever touched someone so much in a way that surprised you?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
And this happened last year. So there's a poetry competition. I think it's the biggest, one of the biggest, if not the biggest poetry competition in Kenya. It's called Slam Africa. So I was doing, so they usually do 3 preliminaries, and then there's a grand slam. So the winners of the 3 preliminaries go to the grand slam, and then they have a grand winner. So I was doing the 3rd preliminary last year in December, and we were about 9 poets, and all the poets performed. And as I said, I'm a Christian, and I love Jesus, so my pieces are inspired by God. So I did this Christian piece, and after I finished, when I was going backstage, a lady approached me, and she was like, I'm so proud of you, and this is someone I've never met before. I'm so proud of you. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks, why? I assumed I performed well. And she was like, of all the poets who have performed here, you're the only poet who's performed a Christian piece. Now, and she was telling me, because I was using the word God, so she was like, but God is not actually God's name. God is called Jehovah. So that's when I learned she was a Jehovah Witness. And for me, I'm not a Jehovah Witness. I think we have maybe different beliefs. So yeah, but it was interesting for me. Like I expect people to tell me, okay, you performed so well, your delivery is good, but that was unique for me. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So, in your creative process, what's usually more important to you? Telling your story or inspiring others to find theirs?
Inspiring others to find theirs.
I am tempted to tell you to now do a poem.
A lot of my poems are actually about other people. A lot of my poems are about other people. It may be fictional, it may be true, but most of them are about other people. I actually don't like talking about myself that much. Yes. So I like to see people find themselves in my poems. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Interesting. What has been one of the highest? What has been one of your highest moments in your creative life?
In my creative life, I think doing a show. Just, you know, when you do a show, my first ever poetry show was free, but last year I did another poetry show, now my second one, and I was charging. So for people to come, even if it's just one person, I was charging 700 advance, 900 at the gate. So if someone actually pays, even if it's just one person pays 700 shillings to hear you speak, I think for me that's just a high moment. Seeing that first payment, I was like, okay, someone can actually pay for me to speak. That was high. Yeah.
Amazing. The lowest?
Lowest, I think the lowest is when I have writer's block.
Hey, hakuna kitu yenye creatives huogopa ka hiyo.
That's the lowest moment because nakuanga so low, niko like, this is the lowest. If I can't even write a line, then I don't think I can go lower than that. Hapo basi life imenifikisha mwisho kabisa hapo.
Uko karibu kurudi kwa dark
Hapo
thoughts.
niko karibu kuanza kufikiria kuibia.
I'm really interested to know about this story ya kuibiana. Tell me, what was happening in your life at that time?
Life was so hard. Life was so hard at that time. Finances were pretty low, you know, and you have a family. So I'm the only boy at home. I have 3 sisters, and my mom. My dad died way back.
Sorry.
Yes. So it's me, my mom, and my sisters. So there's usually that pressure of being the only man in the house. And I think this is something that happens in all African communities. There's just that pressure, even when it's unspoken. You have it in your mind, at the back of your mind, you know, I am the only man in the house, and I need to make things happen. So when my life is not where I need it to be, and those things I need to make happen at home are not happening. And so I was going through that, and you know, school wasn't working also. So a lot of things just were not working for me. It was a very dark place. Yeah.
Okay. Do you mind telling us that piece that you did during that time?
Right now?
Yes, please,
Okay.
perform it.
Okay. Nimeshinda kutupa lugha, kuspeak out je zile thoughts ninafuga. Nimeshinda kujitafuta, but hata after kujipata nimeshindwa kujipa shukran juu sijui kama nitalive kwa present ama nitalive kwa future. Nimekuwa na few chances kumekuwei kwa desert, kubring more kwa meza, kustop show, kutesa, but daily na feel backwards ka kupitisha dem kwa reza, kuweka brain gereza, ina cut through my heart kama beam za laser, ina ni live tongue tied so ni tough kueleza, vile na live life sijui ka kuna souls mi uguza, sijai receive profit ya ile soul nimeuza, nimekuwa push to the wall vile raia inanipuuza, so tightrope kwa life na feel ina get looser, life ina move too fast, labda inge move slow more, ningekuwa na aja kulive more, but sahi I'm just a walking carcass, na live no more, na live just enough kupostpone matanga, njaya life na hanga, na feel religion haina answers, so na contemplate waganga, daktari toka tanga kieleweke, sijui ka unanielewa, ngoja nilipie short ndo nikwe tipsy enough, but tenda shani show tipsy enough kubring light kwa mwezi wake, juu every time ana blink ni time ya kulipa bill, kashia pale kwa desk life inamsukuma still, amekuwa heavily tempted kuibado iko kwa till, 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, ishakuwa skill, dream zake anazikill. Yeah, that's a bit of it. So that poem is one of the poems I'm gonna be performing at the show. So if you want to hear the rest of it, come to the show. It's gonna be at Phoenix Theatre on the 3rd of May from 4 p.m.
Okay. Benja muuliza swali liko kwa mind yangu. Sasa juu tumeuliza mimi na Benja, wacha tukuulize. What's the difference between poem and spoken word?
There's not much difference. People just like to put a difference, but at the end of the day, all of it is poetry.
Ni kuongea tu.
Yeah. Ni juu watu fikiria poetry ni English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What challenges have you experienced? Okay, pia kabla tumalize pia utatufanyia poem nyingine, si ndio?
Sure.
I love poetry. I love poetry.
Please.
So I think it's the reason why I'll ask you to do another piece for us.
Please.
What challenges or rather what obstacles umepatana nazo throughout the journey?
Of general creativity, of poetry in specific?
General
creativity. I think for creatives in Kenya, especially in the storytelling industry, the opportunities are very few. The opportunities are very few. If you look at poetry, very few poets are actually earning from poetry. So you have to do other things, and poetry will just forever remain a side gig for you. But nikiangalia maju, like when I was saying about that P4CA movement, those poets doing international tours, these are guys who they've dedicated their whole lives to poetry because they are able to make a living from it. Yes, but in Kenya, and I don't know about the scope in Africa, but in Kenya the opportunities are very few for that. And then when you come even to storytelling in terms of photography and film, those things are expensive. They're so expensive. So ukipata, like in order to buy maybe even one lens, you have to save for a few months, unaona. So I think the opportunities are few, and then the industries are expensive in nature. Yeah.
I know you talked about writer's block being one of the things you taki kusikia karibu na wewe. So how do you deal with it?
How do I deal with it? I don't think I actually deal with it. I just let it play out. I just let it play. I've never actually sat down and because for me when nikifika hiyo place ya writer's block, naachanga kuipush. Because when I push, I usually find that I do write. Even when I'm experiencing writer's block, I do write, but most of those things will never see the light of day. But I do write. Like me mwenyewe nikienda kwa my notebooks, I can see a poem, and even when I read it, I can tell this poem nikiandika nilikuwa na writer's block. It's just not up to my personal standards. Unaona? So I do write. I think maybe that's how I deal with it. I just write, and then eventually it fades off. Yeah.
What's that one moment of breakthrough that's reminded you why you do what you do?
Moment of breakthrough.
Yenye unakaa hivi, or one time yenye ulikaa tu hivi ikakukumbusha this is the reason I do what I do.
There was a time I did a piece, and it was about it's one of my one of the first pieces I ever wrote back when I was starting. And sometime there's a time I performed it, and someone came and told me I cried during that piece because it was almost similar to what she had gone through. And I was, yeah, this is why I do what I do. Because as I said, I like to see people finding themselves in my poems. And so when she came and told me that she resonated so much with that poem and that it even made her cry, I was like, I'm glad you let it out. I'm glad you found yourself. I'm glad you saw yourself in my poem. Yeah. And that is why I do what I do.
Yeah. How do you deal with crowds?
How do I deal with crowds? I'm a people's person. I'm a people's person. I don't have a problem with crowds. I'm okay. I told myself from when I started doing this that even if I ever become famous, like really famous, the one thing I fear is not being able to mingle with people because I'm famous. That's the one thing I fear. Yeah.
I'm about to ask you a very obvious question because kwanza najua utakuja. Do you carry your camera everywhere?
No, I didn't carry it today.
Exactly, that's why I'm saying I'm about to ask you a very obvious
but
question.
I usually do.
All right. Yeah. So when was that time, or rather, have you ever been in that place where ume capture moment na una feel, wow, this is so timeless? Like, yeah, how did that make you feel, or how was that experience?
It was amazing. It was I was in church, so sometimes I usually shoot in church. I was in church and there was this lady, and I think the preacher was preaching, and so guys are listening, you know. And she had her head bent down and she was just like this. She wasn't sleeping. I don't know if she was praying. I don't know if she was thinking. But when I capture that photo, for me it was just timeless, because in my head I'm trying to think, like the preacher is preaching. You know, in church there's usually time for praying.
Yeah.
And you can see that everyone is praying, there's time for praise and worship, and you can see that everyone is singing. Also the time for praise and worship, you can see some people are singing, some people are praying. But when the preacher is preaching, usually people are listening, or those who maybe have just gotten from a night shift, could be dozing kiasi. But her, she was just like this. And in my mind, I was thinking, what could be going through her mind, or what could be going through her life to make her be like that when everyone else is attentive? Or is that her way of listening, or is she thinking about something that is going on in her life? So that picture for me was, it was, yeah, it aroused some emotions even in me. Yeah, yeah.
Nyinyi ni wale wenye mnatupiganga picha tukilala kwa kanisa.
Ukilala mimi nitakupiga picha. Unalala
Aki watu nikwambia watu wa media wanakuanga na tabia mbaya sana. Church media, they will wait when you're doing the most inappropriate things. That's the time they are there with their camera. Umelala umesinzia or uko kwa simu, alafu ndio so unapinduka hivi unaangalia screen, unajiondoka kwa screen, uko like, oh my god.
Unaona komanda juzi amechapa mtu kofi. Silale kwa kanisa, atakwambia uende kwa nyuma.
Hey my god.
There's a lady alifukuza, I don't know if this was the Sunday, alifukuza some lady, he was like, fukuza yeye, mwambie aende anyeshewe huko nje kidogo ndo arudi.
Okay. But that pastor is usually very interesting.
No, Pastor Nganga, I think Pastor Nganga is an honest guy. He's living his life without having to ask for permission from anyone.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yes.
That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah, we may disagree with a lot of the things. Maybe he say, maybe the way he speaks, but
yeah.
For me, Naonanga, by the way, he's a very honest guy.
He's very comic.
Yes.
Hey my god. If you weren't a creative, what would you be?
If I wasn't a creative, so I've been many things in my mind.
For example?
So when I was growing in primary school, I really wanted to be an astronaut. So, you know, going into space, nilikuwa nasoma, I knew the first man in space. I knew the first animal in space was a dog, you know. I had read all these things. And then,
I didn't even know that, but anyway.
Yeah, the first animal in space was a dog. So when I went to high school, I realized God did not bless me with the brain for physics.
You and I both.
Yeah, so I think I'm not very good with sciences. Though I did get an A in biology, and I'm just saying.
Allah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes, but I'm not very good with sciences. Chemistry, physics, nilikuwa na umanje mbaya sana, and I think from that onset nilijua, you know, there's some things I can do. But then I met other people in, ukienda tu hapa hill, kuna tu usanii fulani, hata kama ukwangi msanii, itatokea tu.
Hey, okay. Sawa, ni sawa tu vile tumeona vile mnajinini. You're not saying, yeah, you're not saying anything.
Ni hali ya life, tumezoea.
You're telling me something.
Yeah, so when I went to high school, I met other creatives, and I think the creative in me was born, and I knew this astronaut thing is not for me.
So imagine saying ungekuwa kwa space.
Imagine ningekuwa huko na kina Elon Musk manze.
Ungetaka ku create nini? Like right now, let me suspend belief and have this conversation with me. Today, had you had the opportunity to be in the space and or whatever those ones, I don't know their name properly, but yeah, where aeronautical engineer ni wa ndege. Okay, sorry.
At a spacecraft ni ndege.
No, ni Benja ananiambia ati hao watu wako kwa space wanaitwa aeronautical engineers.
No.
Benja, I'm dating an aeronautical engineer and I know that an engineer wa ndege.
Hapo amekuguza pale inafaa.
Hapo ameguza home. We play too much with
wale wako space ni astronauts.
Yeah, so astronauts.
Yeah.
So if you're an astronaut today, what would you want to do? Ama wende ungekuwa tusumbwa la space, sijui what is the vitu za Elon Musk. What would you want to create?
I don't think I would want to create. I'd want to experience the creation. I just want to go and see, like, hii moon yenye tunaonanga tukiwa Earth, like, this is actually it. hizi planet tunaonanga zikiwa like ndo izile bado hatujafika ile level humans can actually see them with the naked eye. They're still sending cameras, but maybe in the next couple of years of the technology inaendelea, maybe humans are gonna land on Mars or something. So for me, I'd love to experience like huko, just to experience like God actually did this. You know, the universe is actually a big thing according to science, because there's Earth, then there's the planets, and then there's the Milky Way galaxy, and then there are other galaxies, and then you realize how small we are, which means the universe around us is so huge and we're so minute, and I'd love to experience that. Yeah.
If you could capture your life in one photo or in one poem, how would each one look?
I think I'd love to, my past life or my life in general.
Like whichever part of your life, but your life generally, if you could capture it in a poem and a photograph, how would which one of those things look like?
Okay, so let me start with the photograph. The photograph would probably be somewhere in a forest. I love the woods, so I'd probably be somewhere in a forest camping with a notebook, a pen, and a camera. That's my life.
Lakini kwa nini it should not come out vibaya, but why are creatives always sijui wako kwa woods, wako peke yao, wako kwa maji, wako kwa mito, wanakunywa chai, kahawa, alafu vitu kama mvua zinawa excite?
There are some things that awaken the creative in you.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yawa.
Ukienda tu kae tu pale forest gani, tuseme uende tu Karura, and you just sit there and you see people passing and you see birds. Unaenda pale kwa zile waterfalls zinakuanga hapo. Like, this is life. Ukirudi Nairobi, all you see is buildings. And there's only so much you can say about buildings.
Yeah.
But I feel like life inakuanga where nature is. That's where real life is. That's hatu una experience fresh air, hakuna kelele sijui ya gari, and ukiwa tao manze traffic imejaa and everyone is honking and you just can't think and there's a lot of noise in your mind. But when you go to somewhere quiet, that's when you're able to process your own thoughts. In the city, it's really hard to think. But when you go somewhere quiet, you're able to process, you're able to sit with yourself. I think a lot of us as humans are afraid of sitting with ourselves. And because when you sit with yourself and you start to actually question yourself, you know, like you're talking to yourself, you realize there are things about yourself that you don't want to know. So we are that afraid. But when you go to somewhere quiet, you're able to process those thoughts and accept that, okay, I didn't know this about me, but this is something I want to work on. Yeah.
All right. How would your life look like in a poem?
How would my life look like in a poem? I think, I don't know. That's a poem I'm yet to think about.
You've not thought about writing a poem about your life?
No. As I said, I rarely think about myself when I'm writing poems. But it's a challenge. Maybe I should start talking about myself more in my poems. Yeah.
Tell us about your best piece.
My best piece is called Dear God.
Dear God.
Yes.
What's the story behind it?
I was at a place I just felt like I was no longer in connection with him. And it was a long period of time. So when I wrote it, nilikuwa nimefika place like I feel I need to talk to him. Because mimi nilikuwa tu nime walk away.
It's always us.
Yeah. So nilikuwa nimefika place and when I wrote it, nilifeel I spoke my heart. Yeah, I spoke my heart and I told him, you know, my life is yours. If you want to kill me, you kill me. If you want, do whatever you want with it. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So before I ask you to perform one last piece for us, what advice would you give young creatives who feel pulled to many directions?
Do what makes you feel at home. You can be pulled into so many directions. I was studying economics at Upper UN. So those are the many directions you can be pulled into.
Yeah.
You know, I was called for entrepreneurship at JCOT. But when I'm creating, that's when I feel at home. Like this is ukikaa chini ufikirie kwa kichwa yako, the one thing that you would want to do for the rest of your life. Like if anything happens, this is the one thing you'd want to do for the rest of your life. Go with that. Go with that.
How would you define success as an artist?
Success as an artist. For me, I feel successful because I'm doing it. I think success as an artist is doing it. There's the money factor and, you know, being able to make a living out of it. But the fact that you are actually doing it. Because, you know, you can do one poem and you die the next day. So will people call you an artist or just someone who wrote a poem? You know? But for you, that poem was all you had.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So for me, success as an artist is doing the thing, creating the art. That's success.
All right. Amazing. What legacy do you hope your work will leave behind?
I hope people keep finding themselves in my poems. I hope it resonates with them. I hope it raises questions. I just hope my poems never become mundane. You know, like even if you there's a poem I love. It's by Max Ehrmann. It's called Desiderata, and it talks about the different aspects of life. And when I read that poem, if I read it today, it will still arouse the same feelings in me as it will tomorrow. And that's what I hope for my poems, my photography, my videography. Like, I hope they never become mundane. If you listen to it, it doesn't matter how many times, it will still arouse the same feelings it aroused the first time. Yeah.
Where do you hope to see your work? Rather, where do you hope to see yourself? What dreams do you have? What projects are you working on for the future?
Long-term dream, I hope to one day tour doing poetry. I hope to one day do it. As I said, the thing that really marked this was seeing people doing an international tour because of poetry. And this is something I love doing, and I would want to, you know, one day go to Ghana, go to South Africa, go to Egypt. And I'm talking about Africa because I'm very passionate about Africa. Going to Europe is good and everything, but
You don't have American dreams?
Nah. No, I don't have an American dream. I mean, I'd love to go to America one day and maybe just experience. But for me, I'd want to visit so many countries in Africa. Yeah, doing poetry.
I've always wanted to see if I'd be able to visit, especially countries with rich history.
Yeah.
Live. You see those, sijui to Puerto Rico, sijui ya country Indonesia, sijui Thailand, sijui wapi uko ndani, Taiwan. Those ones, I've always wanted to.
So nime mention Taiwan, nikakumbuka there's something I was reading about the Tao people from Taiwan. So, you know, when a cat falls, maybe from like a building or a tree, it relaxes itself and it becomes lighter. So when it reaches the ground, you know, it's like a light bounce, and then it's okay. But if it rigids itself and it falls, itavunjika bones and everything. So the Tao have this belief of that cat that we are all falling. We are all falling, and the only way to land safely is to let ourselves go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and just relax yourself and go with the flow. And then you land with a bounce. But if you rigid yourself and you're like, no, I'm not flexible, I can't change for this, I can't change for this. Yeah, so yeah. So yeah, those countries with rich histories zinakuwaga na so many philosophies zenye mi upenda.
All right, amazing. So you want to do a poem for us?
Okay.
Pick a piece for yourself. I
Pick
am
a
not
piece.
stuck on do this or do that one. Pick one for yourself.
Okay, let me do the piece that I told you that lady came and said.
Okay, okay.
It resonated with her. Ni miaka 10 tangu uende. Kuna vitu nataka kukwambia. Nataka nikwambie ati mam, tangu uende siku hizi kwa nyumba tukulangi, sahani zinatumiwa na panya na mende. Alafu by the way, last year November tarehe 23, saa 6 mchana, bro alidai. Nywele. Alikuwa na wish ungekuwa karibu, angekuuliza kana kapoa ama na kambaya, but mom, you were nowhere to be seen. Kile ulidua ikuwa poa. Mimi mwenyewe niliwitness na macho zangu dada kiwa hopeless for days. The only hope alikuwa nayo ni sister yangu mdogo. Ule mwenye ulikuwa unamuita my flower every morning, lakini ile style ulimwabandon nayo ilimwacha akiwa na stigma. Hadi alishanywa nywele. Siku hizi ananga peace, jua kilala na kumbuka tu vile mama alikuwa anamuimbia lullaby. Mama ulifanya tuka lose faith. Sister yangu mkubwa alishikwa na attack vile alisikia ati umeenda na urudi tena. Worst of all, uliniacha kwa ile stage nilikuwa na kuhitaji zaidi. 10 years later bado niko kwa hiyo stage, nimeshika mic na kulilia. But sijui ni furahi au nikasirike. Juu hata before uende si ati life ilikuwa bed of roses. Ni mara ngapi nilala club nikasema nitaenda home kesho. Kesho ikifika nikasema nitaenda home kesho. Kesho ikifika nikasema nitaenda home kesho na kesho na kesho, juu home kulikuwa kumejaa tu chaos. Na ni mara ngapi niliona dada kipigwa KO. Mara ngapi niliona dada kilia. Hata kinifungia kwa room yangu ati ndo nisione, still nilisikia machozi zikianguka, na asubuhi nikiamka niliona lines zenye machozi ilipitia. Na si unajua lines za teardrops kwa kali, sometimes washa macho zake zilikuwa zimefura, palm prints za mikono zako zimejichora kwa cheeks zake zenye pia zilikuwa zimefura, ungedhani ni mandazi yamekula. Sikuwa yona dada kirevenge, sikuwa yona dada kijidefend. Angetaka angekutai kwa ndo imejaa simiti ndo usiai minulia mikono tena, lakini hata zile black belt zake za 350 sikuwa yona dada kitumia. You were never there to teach me about love. Life ndo ilinifunza ati love is just a road. Hate ndo destination. Ati love is not real. So siku hizi dunia ikiniuliza mimi ni nani, nawaambianga mimi ule boy mamake alimwacha na 2 marks, moja ikiwa emotional. So siku hizi akichoka kuimba na the different voices in his head, utampata beza akiwatch porn in disguise of soaps tena na tena na tena. In the meantime akihave sex na mikono zake while staring at the other mark, book yenye mamake alimwachia. Naambianga mimi ule boy ako tomboy aliotulia Avenue Ronald Ngala Backstreet Zangara, ameshika chupa ya glue kutry kuinhale ile harufu attempt ku stick together pieces of his heart zenye zilikuwa broken at the same person alidhani ndo the pillar of his life. Mami, peace ni yako kukwambia ati hata ukuje ukipiga magoti hadi nguo ziraruke, ulie machozi na test maji ya uzima, mi siwezi na siwezi na siwezi kosa kusamehe. Yes, thank you.
I got carried away. My God, mpaka benchana. Unasikiza kweli, then niko like, you know, you've just painted an image, alafu nikaangalia venye tunapitanga streets, tunaona machaliwa streets, alafu umemjudge.
Yeah.
Aki, as you were performing that art, nimerepent kwa heart yangu, nikaambia God, I'm so sorry. If nishaipatana na street kid, alafu nikamwangalia, nikamjudge harshly.
Yeah, was you
like nimejiambia, that could have been someone's story.
Yes.
They're on the streets, that's what they have gone through.
Yeah.
That's what they're battling. And then you see them on the streets and you judge them so harshly. And I was just like, my God, I'm sorry if I ever did that.
Yeah. No one knows background story, I'm saying. Unaweza ona mse pale kwa streets, and it could be even someone with a suit, but they have the same story.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so to easy on the judgment.
that one has gone deep. That one has gone deep. Ooh,
Yeah.
that one has gone deep. Thank you so much for coming. Where can we find your work? Where can we find you? Please let us know using the camera.
On IG, my poetry page and personal page is _ANDETE_. My photography page is kenyan.story. I have a YouTube page, kenyan.story. I usually go to different events in Nairobi, documenting the live scene of Nairobi. So maybe Costa Ojwang has a live Airosh as alive. I like the authentic Kenyan sound, so I usually go documenting that, and then I post them on YouTube. I also post my poetry there. I'm on Facebook, Mulama Andete. I write creative non-fictional stories on kenyanstory.mystrikingly.com. Yeah, so if you go there, you'll find some of them are true, some are fictional.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing. It means a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
And come for my show and other dope poets.
Yes, he has a show on May 3rd.
At Phoenix Theatre.
At Phoenix Theatre. Where is Phoenix?
Phoenix is on Parliament Road.
Ah.
Yes, the building is a professional center.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
All right. So ashatupea directions, ashatupea siku time?
4 p.m.
4 p.m. May 3rd, 4 p.m. Phoenix Theatre. He's going to be there doing that and many, many other pieces together with many talented artists and poets. And I can tell you he has so much depth. Where I have listened to him and he has quite some depth. See wale creatives wenye we know them and we say nothing. Shh. I am paving way for Val to come so that we're able to do our next conversation. Do not touch that dial. It has been an amazing time here at Inspiring Stories with our poet and photographer. Until next time, see you.